The Secret of the Enchanted Garden. In the heart of France, in a quiet little village surrounded by green fields and tall trees, lived four best friends: Louis, Amélie, Pierre, and Claire. They had grown up together, playing in the meadows, picking wildflowers, and chasing butterflies. They were inseparable, always sharing their joys and sorrows. One summer afternoon, the warm sun shone brightly over the village as Amélie's grandmother, Madame Renée, called the children to her house. Madame Renée was the oldest woman in the village, wise and full of wonderful stories. She had seen many seasons pass, and the villagers always listened when she spoke. "Come, my dear children," she said, her eyes twinkling with mystery. "I have a secret to share." The four friends gathered around her, curious and excited. "In the heart of the forest lies an enchanted garden," she whispered. "Inside, there is a magic fountain that grants water only to those who are kind, honest, and brave." Louis's eyes widened. "A magic fountain." Pierre chuckled, shaking his head. "That's just a fairy tale, Madame Renée." Madame Renée smiled knowingly. "Ah, my dear boy, many things in this world seem impossible until we see them with our own eyes." Claire, the most thoughtful of the group, leaned forward. "Has anyone ever found it?" The old woman sighed. "Long ago many tried. But the garden reveals itself only to those with pure hearts." The four friends exchanged glances. This was no ordinary story. This was a challenge. An adventure. That night they could barely sleep. The thought of a hidden garden and a magical fountain filled their minds. They had to find it. As soon as the sun rose, they packed their bags with food, water, and warm blankets. Louis carried a small lantern. Amélie packed a notebook to record their journey. Pierre brought a rope in case they needed to climb, and Claire carried a compass. With excitement in their hearts, they stepped into the great forest. The trees stood tall like ancient guards, their leaves whispering secrets in the wind. The air smelled of fresh pine, and birds chirped happily as if welcoming the young explorers. As they walked, they saw an old man sitting by the roadside. His clothes were torn, his face thin with hunger, and his hands trembled as he held out a small bowl. "Good morning, kind children," he said, his voice weak. "Could you spare some food?" The children looked at each other. They had packed only enough for their journey. If they gave some away, they might not have enough. Louis hesitated but then remembered what Madame Renée had said. Kindness is important. He reached into his bag and handed the old man a piece of bread. Claire followed, offering an apple. "Here, sir. Eat well." The old man's eyes filled with gratitude. "You have kind hearts. May your path be clear." As they continued their journey, Amélie whispered, "Did you see how happy he was? I feel warm inside." Pierre smiled. "Maybe kindness is more powerful than we think." They walked for hours, following a small path through the trees, until they reached a river with a broken bridge. The water was deep and fast, and the bridge was in pieces. There was no way across. On the other side, a small bird sat on a branch, watching them with intelligent eyes. "To cross, you must answer a question truthfully," the bird chirped. Claire stepped forward. "What is the question?" The bird flapped its wings and asked, "Have you ever told a lie?" The children hesitated. Pierre thought about the time he told his mother he had finished his chores when he hadn't. His ears turned red with guilt. "Yes, I have." Amélie sighed. "Me too. Once, I broke my mother's vase and said it was the wind." Louis nodded. "Sometimes I say I am not hungry when I really am, just so my little brother can eat more." Claire whispered, "We all have lied." The bird tilted its head. "The truth is important. You admitted your mistakes. Now you may pass." Suddenly, the broken bridge glowed with golden light and repaired itself. The children crossed safely, feeling lighter in their hearts. The journey continued, and the forest grew darker and colder. The trees whispered, and strange shadows danced in the distance. Soon they reached a dark cave. Inside the cave, eerie echoes bounced off the walls. The ground was damp, and a cool wind blew from within. "I don't like this place," Claire said, gripping Pierre's hand. Then, out of the shadows, a great wolf with glowing eyes appeared. Its fur was silver, and it stood tall, blocking their path. "If you are brave, you may pass," the wolf growled. Louis swallowed hard. We are afraid. But we won't turn back." The wolf nodded. "Courage is not about having no fear. It is about facing fear." Slowly, the wolf stepped aside. The children walked through the cave, their hands tightly holding each other. When they reached the other end, the sun shone brightly, and the air smelled sweet. Ahead, a golden gate covered in roses stood tall. Behind it, colorful flowers bloomed, fruit trees swayed, and in the center, a fountain sparkled like diamonds. "The enchanted garden," Amélie gasped. They ran to the fountain, marveling at its beauty. As they approached, words magically appeared on the stone. "Only those who have learned kindness, honesty, and courage may drink." One by one they touched the water, felt warm and full of life. When they drank, they felt lighter, happier, and full of energy. A gentle voice whispered, "You have found the true magic. It was inside you all along." The children smiled, realizing that the real treasure was not the water, but the lessons they had learned. Hand in hand, they walked back to the village, ready to share their story with everyone. That night, Madame Renée listened with a proud smile. "You see, my dear ones, the greatest treasures are found not in gold or jewels, but in the goodness of our hearts." And from that day on, the four friends continued their adventures, always remembering that kindness, honesty, and bravery are the real magic in life. Moral of the story: kindness opens doors where none seem to exist. Honesty builds trust and strength. Courage helps us overcome fear. The greatest treasures are not riches but the values we hold in our hearts.